Howdy. Hello, hello, hello. The time has come. We're going to attach some wings to this guy. Just to sort of follow up, we attached a bunch of these chains to him, which now make it amazingly precarious to handle. We did a base coat of this warpy stuff coming off of the sides, down here, a little off of this guy, and obviously the warp stacks up there. A couple little spots of white in there, but that's not a big deal. We're going to go over all of that with sort of a thinned out coat of Magos purple that's going to sort of tie everything together. What else did we do? Yeah, we metaled up the chains. Oh yeah, and then there was a decent amount of blending that happened because these attached pieces of cloth with this chain were still white because I had just attached them. So yeah, tonight we are going to attach these presently beautiful wings, and then I'm going to hit part of them very gently. We're going to cross our fingers here. Hopefully I won't screw it up with this like pearlescent olive green acrylic lacquer, which is for an airbrush. I don't have an airbrush. So we're going to very gently dab some on there so that the wings, when they hit a certain light, will get like a weird reflective quality. I've never actually used this color before, and I've only barely used this stuff. I had another version called Acid. Actually, it's right here. Give it a shake. Acid Rain that I used on one of my plasma-like weapons on a Night Tyrant. The other thing that we're going to do tonight is start getting this base prepped. I want to do it as sort of lush and verdant. So these stones will just be like a decently solid gray color. But then all of the open space I'm going to fill in with grass because I've never done that before. I basically just used the different pasty stuff that you use on a base. That gives it like a dirt or sand kind of texture. And I feel like, this guy is kind of special. Maybe it's his like spring garden look. But I want it to look verdant underneath there. Nurgle's garden, all that jazz. So with that in mind, I guess I should probably have a sip of tea and just get down to business. Oh yes, and I was clicking stuff the moment before I got on here and needed to order more crazy glue. Running through that stuff, I gotta remember to order more lead belcher as well. Or find a decent alternative, whichever works. I go through a lot of lead belcher. Lead belcher with typhus corrosion. I've decided I'm not going to corrode a lot of the metal on here, so these chains, they'll still need to be the shininess will need to be brought down. But I don't think for now I'm going to rust them. I don't think I have to. All right, so getting down to business. This wing's a little bit of a pain because the scythe is already back there, so I got to sort of finagle this guy in here very gently. He will fit precisely like that. So I know he dry fits in there. That's good. Always dry fit your stuff first. I've had several weird moments with this model because of that. There we go. No sooner do I say that I need to reorder crazy glue than this thing starts falling apart. I'm going to scoot you back there, buddy. Hopefully I can get in here. Whew. There we go. Get this off the brush. Never a dull moment. Yeah, this thing is no longer... Maybe I should crazy glue it down. Maybe crazy glue should use its own product to stick its things together better. There goes any option I was going to have of having crazy glue sponsor me, but that's okay. They would have to get into a long line of folks that are looking to get on this sponsor train. All right, make sure there's no crazy glue on my hands. We will hop to it. So I know where that goes because I did dry fit it first. And learned out the hard way. If you've already painted, you kind of have to use crazy glue. I think I could use modeling glue, what I found was that the amount of stuff getting in between, that being the paint, the primer, and all that, God knows whatever, sort of struggling to make that bond between plastic, because modeling glue, plastic glue stuff, actually melts the plastic. While it's liquid, melts down the plastic, and then as it dries, as the glue stuff evaporates, the plastic dries again, which is cool. But is this supposed to be outside of there? I don't know. Well, you're inside of there now. Let's check this other side out and see if they'll be symmetrical. It's definitely odd. So yeah, that's how the plastic glue works. Is it melts it and then refuses as it dries. That looks like how it fits. Yep, all right. Apparently that wispy stuff gets in between the wings, which is complicated. That's how Mortarion goes. So the first wing is actually, see there, it goes between those two little bits of warp. So that's sitting in there nice. I can get right down to business with this second guy. He's starting to look like a good proper model. Let it go to your head, buddy. Still lots to do. All right, Crazy Lou. This model is really interesting. The wings are less attached than feels even remotely safe. Like the model looks like the wings aren't really on there crazy well. Then when you actually do it, you're like, man, this thing is barely on there. I think I can get a little bit of bonus help. This side's going to be harder. By just getting a dab of glue on this crease here. Get a little bit more on the model. Now that I've sort of gotten it dry fit. Seen exactly where all the contact points are. All right. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. Now we just wait. Now we gently wait. Yeah, there's the wings are basically two tiny little, almost fingernail sized bits of attachment. Super tiny, not fingernail sized, but I don't know. There's maybe 2 to 3 millimeters on the bottom piece. The top does rest up against additional sort of edge, but still there's like a 2 to 3 centimeter little nubbin that fits in a hole. That's all you get. That's all you get. You just gotta pray and pray that this thing stays together. I do want to turn this to face the camera, but I'm not gonna. Did I even do that right? That'd be awesome if I did it backwards. I mean, his wings look up way higher on my model than they do on the box, but it appears to be right. All right. Those look way up. Does that even look right? It doesn't. I wonder if it connects somewhere else. Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. I'm not moving them. They absolutely look like they fit right where they're at. And of course, the model, the instructions don't even, that's hilarious. Models don't even show you. The instructions don't even show you where those wings attach. Thanks a lot, guys. But in this picture, they're definitely high up like that. So no worries there. Weird. Um, Maybe the picture on the box is just a strange angle or a little bit of play of the lens, but no, it doesn't look the same. Oh, you know what? The model the picture is very different. Okay, here let's spot the difference. He doesn't have any of the crazy gas coming out of the back of him. So this thing does come around that wing a little bit. I am guessing this is, maybe this picture was done with a prototype or something like that, or they're just inconsistent. So be it. Man, his wings are up there. He's looking regal. He is now dry fit twice, glue once. You got it. He is officially about 2 centimeters taller than my Tyrant, which is pretty cool. My Tyrant, my miasmic malignifier, is taller than my Tyrant. Actually, he's almost exact. He's maybe 2 or 3 millimeters higher than my malignifier. These guys are going to get their own little shelf in my transport box. All right, moment of truth. Yeah, they're still soft, and I am going to actually support them. As much as this scares me a little bit, I'm going to support them with a little bit more glue in here, because these guys feel very precarious and naked. And I can scrape and sand off a little extra glue if I have to, but I do not want to be picking these wings back up every single time. I'll just get that crease, a little bit of extra glue fused in there, because I'm scared, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Yeah, the box is just wrong. I would guess with the way the wings are set up that it's kind of like a prototype that the box art was taken with. Perhaps they fit on there. They may fit on there a little bit different. If I wonder if I could just put them on backwards. Nope, they're on square. All right, yeah, it's just different. I'll just have to cope with that. So, that's your boy so far. Let's see, I should probably give these wings a little bit of time to meditate while I work on base stuff. I don't want to start moving these guys around, tapping them with a brush just yet, because I'm terrified. Legit terrified. Question is what to base with. I've got this stuff, which is my Viejo big old tub of stuff, but it's a little in between. I think, as much as I'm going to have grass going out of this, I think I'm going to go with something relatively light on the base. I've got a Grelin Earth, and I've got a pot of it, so I got to kind of get through it anyway. But I think relative to, I think it'll be interesting if it's like super light colored, so it sort of matches a lot of the model, and then from that bunch of green grass is sort of popping out of it. I'm not going to get to the grass tonight, but I can get my super scooper out, start laying that down. Now, as far as the actual rocks go, probably need some form of gray. I've got Celestra gray. That might do it. Let me see if I got another gray lying around. Gray, gray, gray. I, in fact, have Mechanicus Standard Gray. Look at that. That's a pretty standard looking gray. It's well named. So probably some combination of those two grays will go on the rocks. And the rocks do have little crevices with maggoty things in them, of course. So that's dope. I'm guessing I should hit those rocks first because I want to be able to get all the way around their edges before I start putting a crazy amount of paste in. So I can scooch this thing somewhere unsafe. I will need that again in a few minutes when I start dumping out this weird color shifty olive glowy stuff. Right now we're gonna do some work. Oh, that's a nice that's a nice gray. I'm quite fond of gray. Gray's kind of my favorite color. I know most people don't be like, oh, look at this gray I got, but I don't know. It's a simple thing. It's a very smooth paint too. Wow, that is luscious, and it's not just because the pot's new. I doubt it. It is like almost plasticky. It is smooth. Got like a mayonnaise vibe to it. All right, so yeah, that is a great color for rocks. See the stuff that actually gets me excited. Yeah, let's paint these rocks gray. That is a smooth paint, though. Man, if all their paints had this kind of texture to them. Or maybe I just have a lot of old paint. You never know. All right, so I gotta be mindful and careful as I get down here. Obviously, I'm coming in contact with a lot of the business. Yeah. I think this color scheme is going to work out pretty nicely. And then once I've got all this base business, I'm a little concerned these rocks aren't going to stay fused on here, but I don't know. They're glued on about as good as I can do right now. I'm going to pile up a little bit of basing material around them so it sort of hugs them onto the base. I'll definitely shovel some underneath there so that it's a good solid connection. I will say this model is pretty rough as far as trying to show people what I'm doing while I'm doing it. I feel a little bit bad. Not terrible, but there's so much crap going on in this model that it is really hard for me to see what I'm doing while I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. And I do understand that me painting a frickin' base rock is not exactly riveting. But I turned the lights and the camera on, so I'm here to give you some action. Yep. And here's, I'm not even sure if I hit that right now. That might actually be silver from the other night. The other thing I'm not amazing, yeah, that is silver. The other thing I'm not amazingly looking forward to is going around this thing a whole other pass. I'm probably going to spare most people. Maybe I'll probably still straighten it because I just kind of turn everything on when I paint. But I got to do a pass to just clean up. Like there are just so many spots because the model's huge and just full of traps that you just hit stuff. I'm sure far better painters ding things up less than I do. But even if you go on to like Citadel's videos, like those guys that are good, like that Duncan dude, he's like, well, if you hit a spot, you're just gonna go back. And so, like the amount of times they say that, yeah, obviously their producers probably telling them to say that a lot, so people know everybody doesn't freak out while they're painting their first model. But at the same time, it probably just happens. They're really good, and they probably do it a lot less. But everybody's human. It happens. Oh, this is riveting television. Gray rocks, I love my gray rocks. I do want to step up. I'm not on this, but I do want to step up my game. Well, I do want to step up my game on this one, but I want to get a lot better at basing. My bases are kind of boring. Um, and when I look at other people's work, I'm like, wow, those bases look awesome. It really adds a ton to this model. And then when I get to basing, I sort of slide into home plate sideways. It's not to say that I put no effort into them, but even the fact that I recognized like what kind of effect a really cool base can have on a model, you'd think I'd actually put more time into learning how to do it well. So I'm going to do that. I think I'm probably going to do a couple sessions of me with just pre-gaming bases so that I'm not distracted by the model. You know, basically plan on them being for Space Marines at some point, but doing some elevation on them, doing some different material effects. That sounds fun to me. Two thin coats are words to live by. You are 100% correct. And I think this model has really been the one that has sealed that understanding for me. I think at this point, the cloak has gotten like basically 3 thin coats. I've thinned everything down with every step. And it was because I was trying to get a decent fade. But it taught me a little bit of patience, and that's one of the biggest lessons of this entire project of learning to paint has been, is that like a lot of times you got to have faith that the first coat of something is literally just the first coat, and it's not the thing that seals the deal. You're absolutely right, Blizzard. Absolutely right. And you know, learning that things cure overnight, or at least over a long period of time, that's a big lesson. That's another one of those sort of patience things where, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not going to be gorgeous just because you applied paint to it. It's about the accumulation. And that 2 thin coats thing is just like, yep. If you're wondering what's not looking right, if it looks too thick, you should have thinned them. It's not covering enough. Well, two coats. All right, that's going to be a problem getting underneath there. That's going to be like, I almost need a brush that's got a hook on the end. Underneath this piece right here, see if I can get you an angle. Yeah, you can just start to see it right down there. That's kind of a pain. I'm not going to worry too much about it, but also helps understand glazing and layering. Yeah. That is, I think, one of my next big steps is really getting my head around layering. I saw a really awesome video by someone whose name I can't obviously remember. I'm not really good at that, but get in there and try to scrub this up a bit. They were doing orc skin. And the first 3 colors they used were like that magenta, yellow, and I think an orange over like a black primer. I was looking at it and I was like, this looks like a blacklight poster. Like, this is insane. And then they got at it with the green, and then it all started to come together, and I was like, whoa, like, revelation. All right, now we're switching to paper towel to clean this guy up. I do have a lot to learn about that stuff. All right, once more into the breach. Let's see if I can get this thing in there. There's like no place to grab this model safely. I don't know how I'm going to do that. All right. I may just have to make my peace with it. Chuck that over there. There's so much threading the needle on this model. I want to get anywhere into some spot. Yeah, I got some of it off there. Yeah, that's thin enough. Okay, good. I do have some correcting to go in there and do, but jeez, buddy. Yep, these stones I should have absolutely just painted earlier. They didn't look like they were going to pose this much of a problem. There's a lot of space. I am using a large brush, but I think I may have underestimated how, as I often do, how complex some of these little spots are. That little thing right there, I'm not too worried because I'm going to get in there with something bright and disgusting to get the maggots flowing. I am glad that I didn't fuse this thing down yet. Because the fact that that thing's got a little give to it is kind of a lifesaver right now. I don't know how I would. I guess I'd have to use Wi-Fi. But like more and more, I'm thinking like maybe I should get a GoPro just so that it's looking exactly where I'm looking. Because like right now, like I can tell you can't see garbage. I almost swore. You can't see nothing what I'm doing. I can barely see what I'm doing. I mean, I suppose I could do this. The more and more I do it, and my head goes in the shot. See, receding hair. Well, my hairline's not receding. I think my hair is thinning. Not that I'm worried about that. But I don't think people log into this to see old man. Yeah, I'll just fill that in while I'm here. At the least, I'm getting this base coat of gray in here, so that when I fill in all my dirt stuff, I don't have to worry about getting gray on it. I'll do some highlighting of some sort on the stone, but that can happen at a later step. Right now, it's just about getting this kind of nice and granity looking. And this gray actually has like a, probably doesn't show up on the camera, but it's got a decent amount of blue in it. Got that sort of bluish gray stone look. Oh, Morty. You are a test of my lack of skill. Let's see here. I got a thread all the way down there. Near that little lord. There we go. Side of that rock. Oh, I'll probably have to hit that from the other side. Look at this. Yeah, if you ever wondered whether or not I'm in control of what's going on, you can look at what I'm doing now and decide very clearly I am barely hanging on by a thread. Barely driving this process. I'm a willing participant more than anything. All right. I do got to get a little bit of this gray paint loosened up a lot. Sort of dribble a little bit in to some of these spots and let it just move around on its own. Divots. A weird piece of something. Okay, a little detritus for you. All right, the wing feels, famous last words, wings feel about as solid as they're ever going to get, which is not very solid. I don't know how this model gets handled in a game effectively without being broken all the time. It's a mystery to me. I'm going to find out. I mean, I presume people handling your model are like ultra careful a lot about it when it's something like this. I know that people are supposed to be respectful and not just manhandle other people's stuff. I'm not worried about someone breaking. I just don't want someone to feel bad. It feels like a trap. Like an absolute trap. All right, so I feel like this is decently grayed up. I'm going to thin out a little more just to drop into some of these little divots and spots. Just let it soak around and get where it needs to get to. And then I can stop painting gray stuff for a bit. Do something hopefully a little bit more exciting. Which is, and hopefully don't ruin my model in the process. You can always strip the paint, start over from the top. Man, that would be devastating. I'd do it. would lead to a lot more chapters in this than I think I want to do. All right. Looking underneath all these little spots just to sneak in there. It looks like it's got reasonable coverage. This is not the only coat these rocks are getting. Don't need to freak. All right. Oh, right. There's a couple of dabs over there. We're close, folks. Quick spin. I think it's pretty clear that these rocks are pretty gray. All right. I did test those wings out. They feel pretty secure. So now we move on to the risk-taking portion of this adventure. And that is Keller Shifty, if that's what even the term is, lacquer. Plan for it. Just get this brush a little bit cleaner. Need to respect my brushes more. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. There we go. Does that go on the camera? Yeah, it does. Good. You'll be able to see it. Give this stuff a shake. So the plan is, got all this green down here. And I figure I can just sort of dab the edges of all this green with this pearl olive green stuff. And if that doesn't look horrifyingly bad, I know this camera will never really capture it, but the sort of pearlescent thing that it's got going is almost, this was not planned, transition between that color and that color. It's got like this, not pink, but sort of fleshy red stuff going on in it too. We'll see what it looks like when I finally dab it in here. But I'm hoping I can sort of dab around the edges and those little creases and holes just a little bit, very gently. And it'll look neat and reflect stuff. And I did try this, I think you were here last time, Lizard, when I tried this kind of stuff, and it was, there we go. Oh, that stuff is wild. It was with the gun on the Tyrant. So we're back again, give it a shot. I don't plan on reusing these things a ton, but if you immediately get some water in there, great sound. You got a chance to use them again. Yeah, I forgot how much this stuff stings. Oh wow, that's a good odor. I think the light reflection is going to be far too much for it to be possible to see. Yeah, you can see it's like weird, huh? It's like got this strange dotty flowing self-adhesion thing. Fuming. Let's have a quick sip of tea. Pray for me. My lungs. I wonder if I should practice on something first. All right, so obviously this isn't over paint, but I do have this big arm, and I do want to see how this stuff looks before I dive in. I'm still going to dive in with both feet, but I'm curious. All right, so it's very clear, which is good. And it's coloration. I think it does pick up the primer if I brush it hard. All right, well, that's a decent test. Totally can't see it at all. Okay, fair enough. Good job, science. Give that a stir. I'm just going to dab it on. I'm just trying to hit like the last millimeter or so on this thing. I got to stir it every single time. I can see why this is intended for airbrushes, because I think you just have to vaporize it pretty much. Just some tiny dabbing. Don't want to actually do any brush pressure. Taryn, you're all glowed up. All glowed up. Yep, just tapping. All right, so this may not show to you guys until I actually get to the real legit photography phase. But it is legit shiny. Like, I mean, you can see that reflection. It's in person. It's even more, which I like. It is doing the right thing. It's working. It's doing it enough that in the right angle of the light, I can see where I missed, which is always a good sign. You know, I'm going to say that that's pretty cool. All right, now I'm going to turn him this away. I will just keep going. It's a win. So the next thing I'm going to order on Amazon is probably a proper mask. Because I'm absolutely huffing fumes right now. It's not terrible, but like this room is not precisely ventilated. Don't try this at home, folks. Play it safe. So the question is, do I hit those little hole circles as well? I don't know. If I do it, I'll do it in a different pass. Just getting a good dollop on here and hitting it with the side of the brush. I want it specifically to not be a uniform edge. I don't want it to be a line. Just dotting it on there. It's certainly a cool looking effect. Hope it doesn't melt the paint off. What's interesting about this stuff is at one angle it definitely reflects green, at another angle it reflects kind of like that top color. It's certainly wild looking. Weird. Weird. Could use. I'm gonna keep doing this step. I don't want to be naturally distracted away, as my primitive brain often is when I see something shiny, as this is quite shiny. I could try the other color on top or somewhere else. This is a wicked interesting effect. It does not take a lot of it. I think if I do hit those holes, I'll probably be super ginger with this stuff. Just kind of like around the inside of them. I think the light would hit that pretty nice. Oh, Morty, you are just. What is it with me taking the most terrifying villains and making them shiny? I don't know. I don't know. That is a nice, sort of pristine, pretty edge. That is crazy. I'm hyped. I'm probably going to need to add another glop of that. We'll see if we can get through this wing with just what's on there. I'm happy it doesn't take a lot. If it did, I'd have to apply quite a bit of pressure. I'd actually have to brush the thing, which I desperately don't want to do. Alrighty. Look at how pretty you are, Mortarion. Man, I am, obviously when I see anything that I've done that I even remotely like, my next thought is to just absolutely overdo it. But the temptation now, temptation's not a bad thing, is with a super tiny brush, hit all those veins. Probably with that other one that I've got. Man, be truly fabulous. A little more dabbing. I think I am going to make it with this much. There we go. Super clear where you missed when you changed the angle on this thing, which is good. People like me whose eyesight's not phenomenal. It's good for the model to tell you where you missed. Dab in there, a little dab in here. Yeah, that's crazy. It gets shinier as it dries. So you can actually see that. It's not as, like looking over my monitor, it's like, well, it's not as profound. I think it's because I think it's specifically because I've got several lights pointing down here. I know it doesn't look exactly bright. Um, I got a lot of lights pointing at this little space. But you can see all along that edge, got this like crazy otherworldly sheen going on. I dig it. It is much more successful than when I tried glowing up that Night Tyrant gun. Much more successful. Take a little breather here. And I emphasize the word breather. Man, this stuff absolutely junks up the brush. This thing is wee. And it's sticky, even after a wash. Have some tea. Take some deep breaths. My tiny office, but yeah, it's I like it. I like it. I am seriously tempted to just barely touch all those little veins there, and then I can get the sort of top. Tempted. I would certainly give it a unique look. Question is, do I pull the trigger? I would need to grab a green brush. I need something tiny and disposable. It ain't green, but it's already beat to death. It's like, so it's technically disposable. This is that. Will that make it gaudy? Is it enough? No, but it's so shiny. It's so shiny. I'll let it sit for a minute and ponder. Ponder life. What a cool model. The model does carry a lot of like. I was in a band in high school, and I was like a mediocre guitarist. Our drummer was like okay. Our bassist was really good. And our lead singer was really really good. Just let him carry it. Like I'm not saying we didn't contribute, but in this case, the model itself is the lead singer here, and I'm doing my nice rhythm guitars behind it. So if I do the veins, I sort of have to. I'm sort of compelled to stop up at this like ridge where all this crazy stuff happens, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think the edge here is absolutely fine to just like sort of do the last couple millimeters of it. I worry about when I get up to this point. The shininess is gonna like where it starts, where it stops. Right near it's very much just the edge. All right, well, I can shake this stuff up and have a go. You know what's funny is that I should probably end up doing these wings so that they match those. I'm like dreading how much work it'll be to do on this tiny little wing that's just floating here. These guys will probably get a slightly different treatment. I don't need to go crazy with them. I'll probably get some Gilliman flesh and a wash, a little bit of green on them. Yeah, a little bit of green. Like I don't know how I would dry brush these effectively because they just wiggle. I mean, I could hold that, but like these wings are just, everything's so tiny, fragile, very fragile. I gotta get his eyes eventually. There's a bunch of glop on here. I gotta figure out. I think my glop is just gonna be Nurdle's rot. I don't want to do anything super neon. I don't want to do anything super neon at all. You know what? I'm gonna keep it tasteful. If I want to come back and hit those another time, I can do that. I don't have to rush it now. It's getting more profound the more it dries, and then because it's that color shifty stuff, it's really dependent on what angle you see it at. Sometimes it just looks a little bit green, and then sometimes like Zorch. I finished the Magnus book. Prospero gets totally mauled. I've moved on to the first heretic, which is Lorgar's story. Man, that thing gets right down to business in like the first chapter. And it's pretty telling. Keep going back to this whole business with the Emperor kind of being a little squirrely, the mistakes he makes. But man, sure lets Erebus go pretty far before correcting him. This probably needs more of a shake. And he's pretty cruel to not Erebus, Lorgar. The Emperor's like pretty rough on him. Like not only burns all these cities to the ground in his like precious planet, but he's like cruel about it. And of course he sends Gilliman in, which is fine. Like they need to build rivalries. And Lorgar is like, I don't know, the sense I got for like opening chapters where everything goes down is like, man, if you say Magnus did nothing wrong, like, the Emperor does sort of heavily contribute to this whole mystique of why people worship him as a god. Pretty heavily. Like, he acts like he's not on board with it. But Lorgar's argument, like, Lorgar is literally like, why don't you just confess that you are a god? Like, in response to his dad. To the Emperor being like, yo, man, I'm not a god. I told you not to tell people I'm a god, all this stuff. Lorgar, like, surprised he didn't get beat. Alright, I've never used this stuff before, but it's pretty weird. I'm used to pasty stuff, and this is just kind of... Nope, there's nothing special hiding in the pot. It's all like this. I wonder if I need to look this up, if this does something very different than what I expect. Agrelin Earth. It's like... It's wet. It's like super wet. I have no idea how this is going to dry. It might just look like bottom of like a California pool. Alright, well, like most things, we're just going to find out. It wasn't labeled anyway special. I mean, yeah, it's technical. Finding that technical is the name for all things that they don't have another name for. Still have no idea what is this blue stuff. Nelac oxide? No idea what that's for. I don't know what it's for. It's for the warp. That's how I used it. So this stuff is thin, spreads excessively smoothly, and I have no idea how long it's going to take for this stuff to dry. I wonder if it dries weird. Like, it's got a little bit of viscosity to it. It might be made out of really weird stuff. It's not rubbery, but it does not hold shape at all. Like, I was sort of thinking maybe I'd clump this around a little bit, but it is like, it's like thick paint. Weird. It does make it easy to get it into crevices and stuff, but I might have to go over it with something else. Like, I'm literally just spooning it on here and giving it a little shake, letting it go where it goes. And because it is this thin, I'm not sure what I will possibly do next. Set this down somewhere somewhat safe. Alliteration. Scrape that stone. Man, I don't know what this crap is going to do. It is weird. I have not worked with basing material like this before. It'd be really hilarious if this actually was just like paint and I didn't know it. Right before. God, this is so odd. I don't know what I'm doing. I got a payload deliver right in that little crease in there. Boop. Remember that talk I had a couple minutes ago about like, man, I really need to step up my game basing. Man, I may be retroactively going back and rebasing this guy if this stuff is super weird. I have no idea. What a soup. Now it's a struggle. This thing that I was like, man, I'm really glad that I didn't glue it down. Now it's just soup all around it. All right. That'll teach you, dude. That'll teach you. All right. Well, I'm hopeful. I might have to do something unconventional and pick. Yeah, I can pick it up. Okay, that's not that bad. Of course, this guy's going to have to sit in all this soup now. I can soup it underneath and then just drop them into it. I really don't get this stuff. Yeah, this is complicated. All right, well, you're in the soup too. I do find it odd that, like, everything in the technical realm, you kind of have to know exactly. It doesn't lend itself to my style of what I'm quickly finding out is my style of, like, I'll just buy it and then use it and then figure it out. Like, can you imagine if I thought that? I think of a good example. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna base this in typhus corrosion. Like, I mean, it might look cool, but like this stuff is so different. If I was like, oh, I guess I'll paint the side of this model with this stuff. It's technical. Yep, I'm starting to wonder if this is even what I think it is. Alright, well, this guy's got like chocolate milk base. I mean, at the very least, see it's starting to dry. It is starting to dry a little bit around the edges. And it kind of looks like it's got a sandy texture to it. I just don't know. Mortarion, Mortarion, Mortarion. The color matches decently. So that's fine. Color's good. Oof. Alright, well, I'll set that aside. And then for my next trick, I'm gonna super thin out some Magos purple with a heap of Lamian medium. It's nice and thin. Or I can make it, I'll blue it up a little bit. Speaking of technical paints that I have no idea how to use, I am just going to sort of lightly brush over the warpy bits. And I'll use some neolac oxide, because why not? I want this to be super thin. Don't want it to be at all painty. But it needs to be a little bit thicker than a wash. Yeah, look at that stuff. It's like curdling in there. No idea what this is made of. I probably shouldn't even mix this with Lamian medium, but too late. Too late for you, my friend. And I will just grab a little bit of this in there. Oh, that brush is... That's the brush I murdered. That's not going to happen. That is not happening. Different brush. Different green brush. I'll just add a little bit of this to the side of this little palette spot. And now we'll just mix things up. It's certainly thinned out. There we go. That's good. This is just supposed to fill in a lot of... It's too thin, but go over and smooth out the transition between this magenta-ish purple and this other blue. That's pretty thin. I still am going to have to touch it up. That's certainly true, but this will give it a little bit of layer. So I'm not washing the whole thing with it. I'm just looking at these spots where it sort of transitions, getting some of this to like rest in the divots a little bit. Move my head out of the shot. There we go. Oh, you complicated model. And I don't know if the camera really picks this up, but basically just by dabbing it in a few spots, transitions are a little more smooth, a little less deliberate looking. It looks wetter, but that's because the paint's wet. But I want this to look warpy. The warp is pretty chaotic. That's what you get. Glob some on there, and then I'll gently hit this guy down here. Mostly that'll just rest. I can gently hit this guy back here, but mostly that will just rest on there and streak around. Everything's nice and thinned out and chill. And I definitely mixed too much of that stuff, but who cares? There we go. So, wash this guy up. I think I have painted myself into a corner, but I'm going to give this a couple minutes to dry and just sort of gaze on it as I grab it by the wings, as if I didn't just glue them on earlier. The warpy stuff is looking pretty solid. The wings look pretty crazy. Oh my god, yeah, it's already dry. That's why that stuff smells so much. It's like nail polish. The wings have a really nice sheen to them. Crazy sheen to them. I gotta keep using this stuff. The base is covered with something that I really don't understand called acrylic earth. And I hope it does not ruin its freaking base. Because it looks like garbage right now. It just looks like wetness. But I guess I'll just have to let it dry to find out. A fun night of experiments. So next time, because I can't handle this model anymore. I can't grab it anywhere near the base. I thought it was going to be that thicker, muddy stuff, but I don't. I'm afraid I'll put a thumbprint in this thing. But next time, we'll handle the little wings and stuff like that. All those. I mean, basically everything that's white. There's a couple more pieces to add. Couple little trinkets. There's one more little lord, little nurgling that fits on the base. I'll add a couple more of my own. We'll hit these winged nurglings, and then all the sensors will get warp lock bronze, and then after that it'll all be tiny details. So there's little spots in here that I want to hit with some like brassy gold. There's a bunch of boils on the wings. Those will get like a yellow and a Nurgle's rot. I've got his face. I got to get those cataract eyes in. That's going to be awesome handshaky goodness. Still got to figure out what I'm going to do on this Pistolo. Sort of like got to get some sort of plasma glow in there. On the day's work, I will probably go over all the little places where there's stitches with something light like Xandri dust and just make it look thready. It doesn't need too much more washing. This stonework on the bottom needs washing. Watching the mud dry. Anywho, it's too wet to go on. I'm going to call it a night. Let this guy cook under the lights for a bit. But we did it, folks. We got the wings on. He is whole. He's not table ready yet. Maybe a couple more sessions and he will be. All right, I'm going to head out. Thanks a bunch for hanging. Hope you have a really good night, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.